The library that burned twice and still exists.
You think you know this story. The greatest library in human history. Hundreds of thousands of scrolls, all of human knowledge under one roof. Then, fire. One catastrophic night, everything lost. The end. Except, that's not what happened. The Library of Alexandria didn't burn once, it burned twice. Two separate fires, two different enemies, centuries apart. And here's the part that should be impossible. It still exists. Not buried under sand waiting for archaeologists, not as ruins you can visit with a ticket. It's in your home right now, on your bookshelf, in your phone, maybe even in the words you're reading at this exact moment. For 2,000 years, we've been telling ourselves a myth about a single tragic fire and a total loss. A story designed to make us feel helpless, to teach us that when knowledge burns, it's gone forever. Tonight, we're going to bury that myth. Because to understand how a library can burn twice and somehow survive, you first have to understand what kind of place it really was, and what kind of people were desperate enough to destroy it. Stay with this to the end, because only then will you know where the library is now, and why some people never wanted you to find it.
Before we begin, erase the image you have in your mind. The Library of Alexandria is not marble columns and tourists with cameras. It's not a single room with neat wooden shelves. It was something far more dangerous. Around the 3rd century BCE, after the death of Alexander the Great, his general Ptolemy took Egypt and founded a new capital, Alexandria. He wanted it to be more than a city. He wanted it to be the brain of the world. So he and his successors began a project that bordered on insanity: collect all knowledge. Not the best books, not the highlights, all of it. History, science, medicine, religion, plays, poems, engineering manuals, travel logs, strange cult texts no one else wanted. If it was written, they wanted it. The library and its parent institution, the Mauseon, the Shrine of the Muses, were effectively the first research university in history. Scholars lived there, ate there, debated there. They were paid by the state to think. And the way Alexandria got its books was aggressive. Ships entering the harbor were searched. If any scrolls were found on board, they were confiscated, taken to the library, copied by scribes, and then, this is the important part, the copies were given back to the owners. The originals stayed in Alexandria. They even had a word for these stolen originals: from the ships. They weren't building a library. They were building a monopoly on knowledge. And that monopoly would make them powerful. But it would also put a target on their back. Because when you gather all the world's knowledge in one place, you also create something else: a single point of failure. The question isn't just, how did it burn? The question is, who would dare to burn it? To answer that, we have to look at its first death, a death that may never have been meant to happen at all. The first fire. Julius Caesar. The year is 48 BCE. Alexandria is a city of light, marble, bronze, and glass, with the great pharaoh's lighthouse blazing over the harbor. Julius Caesar is in the city, and he is in trouble. He's chased his rival Pompey to Egypt, only to find Pompey already dead, murdered on the orders of Egypt's boy king, Ptolemy XIII. The palace is a nest of political vipers. Ptolemy and his sister Cleopatra are locked in a civil war. Caesar, in classic Caesar fashion, decides to help. He sides with Cleopatra. Ptolemy's forces surround him in the palace quarter near the harbor. Caesar is outnumbered, supplies are cut,
the Egyptian navy controls the sea. So he does something desperate. He orders the ships in the harbor set on fire. The plan is simple: burn Pompey's fleet, break the siege. The reality is chaos. Ancient writers tell us that the flames didn't stop at the ships. They leapt from mast to pier, from warehouses to nearby buildings. And somewhere near the harbor was a building housing thousands upon thousands of scrolls. Later writers, the Roman historian Dio Cassius among them, claim the flames spread to the library's book depots. That in trying to save himself, Caesar accidentally burned the greatest collection of knowledge the world had ever seen. But did he? Modern historians argue about this. Some point out that the main library was probably further inland, in the royal quarter called the Brucheion, not right on the docks. They suggest that what burned were storage warehouses, maybe a branch library, maybe just backup scrolls. Others say it doesn't matter. Even if only the harborside depots burned, those depots held part of Alexandria's collection. Ships seized originals, rare texts, scrolls you couldn't find anywhere else. If that's true, then the first fire wasn't just an accident, it was an amputation. The library lost a limb, it bled, and it kept going. Because here's the part of the story almost nobody tells. After Caesar left, after Cleopatra won her throne, the library didn't vanish. It rebuilt, reacquired, expanded again.
There are references to the library and to scholars working there centuries after Caesar's time, which means the story you've probably heard, that Julius Caesar burned the Library of Alexandria and it was gone forever, is wrong. He lit a fire, but he didn't kill it. That would take someone else. The second library, Serapeum. Think of Alexandria's library not as a single building, but as a network. The main collection in the Brucheion, secondary collections in temples and other institutions, and one important offshoot, the Serapeum. On a hill in the southwestern part of the city stood a temple complex dedicated to the god Serapis, a fusion of Greek and Egyptian deities. Attached to this temple was a daughter library, a large collection of scrolls intended to mirror and perhaps back up the main library's holdings. Some ancient writers say it held 42,800 scrolls, others say more. And here's where the timeline gets hazy and dangerous. By the 3rd century CE, Rome rules Egypt. The old Greek royal quarter begins to decline. In a brutal series of wars, the Emperor Aurelian fights Queen Zenobia of Palmyra and recaptures Alexandria. The fighting is savage. Large parts of the city are destroyed. Later sources hint that during this chaos, the Brucheion, and with it the original library, may have been wiped out. If that's true, then by the late 200s, the main library was gone. But its echo still remained in the Serapeum. Which brings us to the second burning. And this time, it wasn't an accident. The second fire, faith and fury. In the late 4th century CE, the Roman Empire is changing. Christianity has gone from a persecuted minority religion to the empire's official faith. Pagan temples, once the center of public life, are now seen as dangerous, idolatrous. And Alexandria is a powder keg. Pagans and Christians clash in the streets, philosophers and bishops trade insults, and worse. In 391 CE, the Emperor Theodosius I issues a series of edicts against pagan worship. Temples are to be closed, idols removed. The task of enforcing this in Alexandria falls to one man, Theophilus, the city's powerful Christian bishop. According to later chroniclers, Theophilus doesn't just shut temples, he mocks them. He publicly parades pagan cult objects through the streets, subjecting them to ridicule. Riots break out. Pagans barricade themselves inside the Serapeum. Remember, this is not just a temple, but a fortified complex on a hill. From within, they reportedly seize hostages, kill some. The emperor sends a message: the hostages will be pardoned, but the temple itself must be destroyed. And so, under the supervision of Bishop Theophilus, a Christian mob storms the Serapeum. They tear down statues, smash altars.
And the library, that daughter library of Alexandria, is destroyed. Ancient sources disagree on the details. Some Christians of the time barely mentioned the scrolls at all, eager to frame this as a triumph over paganism, not over books. Pagan writers and later historians, horrified, insist that a vast collection of manuscripts was massacred that day. But there is a chilling line from the 5th century Christian historian Orosius. He visits Alexandria after these events and is shown what he calls the empty shelves of a library in the Serapeum, proof, he says proudly, that the pagan books are gone. If that's accurate, then this wasn't just destruction, it was erasure. Not by an invading army, not by accident, but by people who sincerely believed that some knowledge should not exist. The library's second burning wasn't Julius Caesar's panicked attempt to survive a siege, it was ideological. The first fire was collateral damage, the second was a statement. And yet, even then, even as scrolls burned and shelves splintered, something stubborn refused to die. Because knowledge doesn't live only on shelves. Sometimes it hides in people.
It's easy to romanticize Alexandria, to imagine that if only those scrolls had survived, we'd have all the answers. We know some of what we lost. We know of authors whose titles survive, but whose texts do not. Entire plays by Sophocles and Euripides, histories, philosophical schools that vanished. We know of scientific theories proposed by people like Aristarchus of Samos, who suggested the Earth might orbit the Sun. Ideas that, if widely accepted, could have accelerated science by centuries. But here is a harder truth. Some things did survive, and we ignored them. Medical knowledge carefully recorded in Greek and Arabic was forgotten or dismissed in later centuries. Mathematical techniques rediscovered, then abandoned. The real tragedy of a library isn't just the fire. It's our relationship to knowledge, our tendency to treat it as optional, disposable, something we can always rebuild later. The Library of Alexandria is not just a place that burned. It's a warning about assumption. They assumed their scrolls would always be safe in that harbor city. We assume our data will always be safe in the cloud. They had a building. We have servers. They had papyrus. We have hard drives and code. Do you think our backup systems are invincible? Or that in 1,000 years, anyone will be able to read the formats we use today without careful preservation? We look back and say, how could they let the library burn? Someone in the far future may look back at us and ask a much harsher question. How could they delete so much? The Library of Alexandria burned twice, once in wood and papyrus, once in story and myth. And yet, in fragments and footnotes, in translations and textbooks, in the very structure of our knowledge, it is still here. In the next episode, we're going to follow one of those fragments. A single lost book, a work copied, hidden, hunted, censored, and nearly erased that quietly shaped modern science. A book so dangerous that for centuries owning it could get you killed. And yet you can download it in seconds today. If you want to see how one forgotten manuscript survived inquisitions, wars, and deliberate suppression, subscribe and turn on notifications. You've been watching Veils for Eternity. And somewhere, in a way the ancients could never imagine, the library is watching back. I'll see you in the next one.